As much as you, me, and your audiences love presentations that make use of effective visuals, we know there are always going to be slides that are stuffed to the gills with boring text and even boringer bullet points. Text is something we'll never be rid of, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. What if I told you I could take a slide that looks like this and make it much easier for the audience to read and pass? Well, it's not impossible. It's not even that hard to do, so let's give it a go. First thing you'll notice is the fact that this text is all over the place, formatting wise. Some poor soul has probably spent ages researching it and copy-pasted relevant snippets from a variety of web pages and documents and brought all the funky formatting with it. Let's fix that by first selecting the text box and changing the font using the drop-down menu on the Home tab on the ribbon. There are loads of fonts you can choose from, but I'd always advise a system font, one that's installed as part of the operating system. If you have multiple operating systems that you're working with, particularly both Windows and Mac OS, then you're really limited to about a dozen or so, but it will save you compatibility problems later on. I only ever come into contact with Windows machines, so I can choose something like Calibri, which is on every Windows version since Vista, so it's going to work okay no matter what computer opens the presentation. Then adjust the size using the font size drop-down on the Home tab. You want everything the same, and 20 points is probably good for this amount of text. Okay, already much better, but now to really improve it, you need to look at the details. This bullet point here at the bottom, it's a different color to the rest. So select the text and go to the bullet option on the Home tab. Click and you'll see several bullet point options, but you can also show more options by clicking on bullets and numbering at the bottom. Here you can choose any bullet point style you want, but I wouldn't recommend many others or indeed having them at all. And you can also choose the size and color of your bullets. The size is fine, but I actually rather like the blue color as it matches some of the other elements on the slide, so let's make them all that color. What's next? Can you see that there's a bit of a larger gap between these two bullets here compared with the others? That's to do with paragraph spacing going wrong. Highlight the affected bullet point on the Home tab, go up to the paragraph tools and click on the line spacing tool and then down to line spacing options. Here you'll see, down at the bottom left under spacing, there's a 12-point after space added. It's this that's causing that extra space. Take it down to 0 points and now everything is consistent. Having said that, it's also really cramped. And that spacing actually helps people to pass the different bullet points, which is really important if you're going to subject them to lots of text. So actually, select all the text, and go back to the line spacing options menu, which you can shortcut just by clicking the pop-out icon on the bottom right-hand corner of the Paragraphs Tools box and apply an 18-point after spacing to them all. There you go, much nicer. You may come across attempts to manually do this, where people press Enter to create a new line and then reduce the font size to make a smaller gap. This is both much quicker and more reliable as you don't get odd formatting issues or rogue bullet points appearing on your slide. And finally, on the text itself, there's so much of it. Help your audience to find the important points by highlighting something. Specifically, any words you want, like highly competitive, for example, and apply different effects. In this case, making it bold, using the tool on the Home tab and changing the colour to match the blue from the bullet points and bars looks pretty good. And you do this on the Home tab just to the right of the bold tool. That looks nicer and clearer, but rather than do that repeatedly, you can select the text that you've just formatted and use the Copy Styles shortcut of Ctrl and Shift and C to copy the format of the text, and then select any other text you like and apply the same style using Ctrl and Shift and V. So like the normal copy-paste shortcuts, but with the Shift key added in. That way you can dance around the text highlighting anything that you want, like the numbers, and just use Ctrl and Shift and V to paste the formatting style on them. The text looks good now, but it's not as clear as you'd like against the background. So a good way to deal with this is to apply a flood fill color to the text box to make things stand out. Go to the Home tab on the ribbon and find the fill bucket icon on the right. Here, a darker color would probably look good. Let's say this dark blue. Now the text stands out, but it's too much and you lose the connection with the image. So right-click on the text box and choose Format Shape from the bottom of the pop-up menu to get the Format Shape fill options, which includes this slider at the bottom to set the transparency of the shape. Drag that around until it feels right, probably about 30% in this case, and now you have a contrast box for the text, but you can still see some of the image through it, so it's all connected. Having done that, two things become apparent. The position is all wrong and the size of the color box doesn't work. Using the rule of thirds, resize the text box using the white grab handles so that it fits into 2/3 of the slide on the left, and reposition it so there's a decent but consistent spacing on the left and at the top. About there looks okay for now. Next up, the text is too close to the edge. In PowerPoint shapes, you can create a margin at the edge of the shape that the text won't go into. Right-click on the shape and choose Format Text Effects from the bottom of the pop-up menu. Then, on the right-hand side, choose the text box icon to bring up the text box options. Microsoft makes these things really easy to find, don't they? Here, you'll be able to set the margins so that the text has a bit of breathing space around it. Just watch the left-hand side of the text box as I increase the size of the margin using the left margin box. Can you see how the text is moving away from the edge as I increase the size of the margin? If you give your text room in a shape or text box, it feels so much more luxurious and considered. A good rule of thumb is to try to get a 1/2 inch margin all round, so do that left, right, top and bottom, and that sets off the text really nicely in the space. You'd also ideally like this text box to fill the height of the slide, so to do that, just above the margin sizes there are 3 radial buttons. If you choose Do Not Auto Fit, then you can use the white grab handles to size the text box to your liking so that it fits nicely and positions it well on the slide if it needs adjusting at all. You're almost there, just one final uber designy thing is to check for widows and orphans. Essentially, are there any single words on their own line, which you could also expand to whether the lines have the correct content. You see, the text on these 2 lines looks okay, but it would probably help your audience to read the first part on one line and then the second part on another line and not have it split apart. To cure this, add a new line return by pressing Shift and Enter. This means you don't get a new paragraph, but just a new line, so you don't get a new bullet point appearing or the paragraph after spacing applied. You have to be careful doing this because it can cause problems with editing later on if you want to update the text, but to really finish it off, it's a nice thing to do. And finally, add an appropriate picture to give some non-verbal context to the slide, which can help your audience understand what the slide is about before reading a single word. In an ideal world, you'd also want to add some animation so that the text doesn't appear all at once and distract the audience. But then again, in an ideal world, you wouldn't try to present a wall of text either, no matter how nicely it's designed. If you need to, go to the Animations tab on the ribbon, choose Add Animation just to the right of center, and select something simple like Fade. Then, using the Effect Options button just next to the Add Animation, choose By Paragraph. And now each bullet will animate in one by one, which prevents your audience from reading ahead and keeps you in control. Again, big caveat here is that this isn't something we'd recommend doing in a presentation. If you want to know how to create visual storytelling sequences instead, check out BrightCarbon.com for loads of great tutorials and ideas. But back to text, as you can see, just by applying some simple tips, you can make a horribly wordy slide look, feel and read much better. You may think this has taken a while to do, but remember, we've gone from something really terrible. Once you've done it for the first time, use the copy-paste style of Ctrl and Shift and C and Ctrl and Shift and V to copy and paste the formatting from your formatted text box to any others in the deck. And if that feels like it's too much effort, you can quickly ensure consistency by using the Set as Default Shape, Line, and Text Box functions. Create any style that you want for shapes, text boxes, and lines, and then right-click to choose that style as the default for all new shapes, lines, and text boxes. This is much quicker than altering styles through the Slide Master. What's more, this sets the style for this file even after shutting down or sending to others, so everything will always look the same. Much better for collaboration.